Hi everyone, and welcome to our third video about structuring your essay. Once you've chosen your question and done some research and come up with your thesis statement, it's then time to start planning out your essay structure. Now keep in mind that essays are argumentative. They have to be persuasive, not descriptive. So if there's ever a part of your essay that sounds descriptive, have a think about how are you going to make it persuasive? How does it help to answer your question? Emphasize that with the information that you're presenting. And have a think about how does your structure help your argument. So when you're planning your essay, create an outline not only of your main ideas, but also the counterarguments. How are you going to address those counterarguments? And in what order? Is it better to place counterarguments early on in the essay, in the middle, or right at the end? Ask yourself, once you've created that plan, is it convincing? Have you missed anything? If you were to take the opposite point of view, would there be any counterarguments that you would raise? Would you be convinced of the points that you have made? So keep going through your essay structure thinking about, is it persuasive? Now let's have a look. Here's an unconvincing structure. Now we're taking the same question as we had in the previous videos about how did ideology play a part in maintaining the Neo-Assyrian Empire and what kind of legacy did it have? And we've got this kind of argument. Official ideology helped to maintain the empire's stability and reinforce clear national boundaries. Okay. So in this argument, we've got, first of all, a paragraph about official ideology emphasized the king's primacy. Then a paragraph about this particular king who promoted peaceful relations with Kume. And then official ideology also emphasized the empire's military strength and valor. Now what you're getting from this is that these are really, really descriptive topic sentences. It's not clear how those points help to answer the question. Official ideology emphasized the king's primacy. All right, but how did that emphasize the empire? How did that help to maintain the empire? It's not clear how this answers the question. So let's take a look at another one. So first of all, official ideology emphasized the king's primacy, which contributed towards social stability. Aha, fantastic. So this is starting to answer the question. Contributed towards social stability. So this helped the empire. Okay, second point, official ideology also emphasized the military strength and valor which justified imperial rule and reinforced clear national boundaries. Again, fantastic. Shows me how it helped the empire. As a third part, as a result of this ideology, a legacy of centralized rule, military dominance, and a cohesive imperial identity influenced the region beyond the empire. Okay, fantastic. So it's showing me that there was a lasting legacy. Now, the reason why this is unconvincing is because it's one-sided. It's only focusing on the positives. It's only focusing on the positive answer to the question. How did the ideology help to maintain the empire? It did so in this way, and this way, and this way. This answer doesn't actually tell me the other side of the issue. How did the empire struggle? Or how did ideology not influence the empire? Or how did it influence the empire in different ways? So what you need to do is have a think about your counter-arguments. So let's have a look at this one. Official ideology emphasized the king's primacy, which contributed towards social stability. Okay, same idea as in that previous one. The second point is the same idea as in the previous one. Now the third point, evidence shows that competing ideologies did exist, which likely led to the empire's fall. Okay, now that's interesting. It's in chronological order, but if their overall argument is that official ideology helped to maintain the empire's stability and reinforce clear national boundaries, it's not clear from this thesis statement that they're going to address that counter-argument. So it's a bit surprising because that counter-argument comes at the end. And when a counter-argument comes at the end, it often doesn't leave you enough space to rebut it or address it in a convincing way. So you need to actually have a think about, is your argument overall taking into account the complexity of your answer? And that's where you might need to actually aim for a bit more of a balanced answer and a clear argument. So here's the argument that we had in the previous video. At the empire's height, official ideology emphasized the king's primacy and military strength, and this ideology helped to maintain the empire's stability and reinforce clear national boundaries. However, and here's the counter-argument, over time, competing ideologies led to civil war and a decentralization of state power. So we're getting from this thesis statement that we're going to be looking at the whole picture. We're going to be looking at both how ideology helped to maintain the empire, but also how it had some failures, how it led to a fall of the empire in this case. Okay, it also answers the second part of the question. Nevertheless, ideologies of the importance of war for Neo-Syrian royal power continued to influence later empires in the region. So we've got the part about the legacy in that answer. So let's have a look. Here's the planned structure. During its most unified periods, so again, at its height, official ideology emphasized the king's primacy. How did it help to maintain? It helped in this way, emphasizing the king's primacy, which contributed towards social stability. And then we're starting to see the counter-argument. Occasionally during its height, competing ideologies had a destabilizing effect on the empire. Okay, so we've got this second point about destabilizing effect because of different ideologies. And then we're starting to see the story. The palace dealt with the competing ideologies by increasing its military propaganda and appeared to unify the empire for many years. So we've got this story of, okay, well, ideology did help to maintain the empire for a long, long time, even though there were competing ideologies at that time. So it's weaving the counter-argument into the central argument. Then the fourth point, however, the empire's fall into civil war and eventual defeat from surrounding regional militaries can be attributed to a weakening of centralized ideologies. All right, so this idea is wrapping up that argument. It's saying, okay, overall, ideology did play a role in maintaining the empire, but in the end, it fell because of competing ideologies. And finally, despite the fall, its ideologies continue to be echoed. So it's answering the part about the legacy there. And this is what I mean when talking about a structure that has two main parts to it. And you might think carefully about how to balance it out. Now in this one, the weight of my answer has been in these first 4 points or first 4 sections of the essay, and then a final section. Now each of these parts might consist of multiple paragraphs. You could, for instance, plan out sections for your essay where you talk about one particular idea over multiple paragraphs, and we'll look at how to do that in paragraphing. So one thing to note here is the language of these topic sentences. Contributed towards social stability, had a destabilizing effect on the empire. All of these points highlighted in purple are showing that move between the different perspectives and the argument. It's showing the argument as we go through. So have a think about your essay plan, and if your essay is going to be 2,000 words, have a think about how many sections and how many paragraphs can you fit in. So if it's roughly 150 to 200 words per paragraph, have a think about having an introduction that's about 200 words, and then between 6 and 10 paragraphs, depending on how long your paragraphs are, and a conclusion that's about 200 words as well. So think about how many points do you want to make, what order is best to put them in, and how many paragraphs do you need to support your point per section. Identify the evidence when you're planning, and identify the counter-arguments, and have a think about putting them in places where you're going to have enough space to address them clearly. Now, when it comes to the writing process, one of the key struggles that people find when writing is that they want to perfect things as they write. They want to write the sentence that's beautifully written and do that in the very first go. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't happen for very many people. That can be a very agonizing task. So to avoid that kind of writing paralysis where you're sitting at a blank screen and trying to rewrite a sentence over and over again, instead of facing that situation, try and view your writing process as going through multiple drafts. This is really going to help you in the long run, particularly when it comes to longer assignments. So think of it as having 1 or 2 first drafts where you make really, really rough ideas, where you're writing down things in a really rough way. It doesn't matter if it makes sense or not, as long as it just makes some kind of sense to you, so that you can go back, identify the main ideas that you put down on paper, and have a think about, okay, what was the point that I was making, and then start to polish it up. So the third draft onwards can be that polishing process. So try and get away from that idea that everything that you write has to be perfect. Make sure that you give yourself plenty of time to do rough drafts first of all. And we're going to have a look in the next video about how to write the different components of your essay.